Hi everyone, welcome to Rise and Shine, a channel dedicated to sharing knowledge for holistic self-development through great books. Today I want to introduce you to a book that you must read at least once in your lifetime, Almost Buddhist by the highly revered Tibetan Lama, Dzonglasar Khyentse Rinpoche. Around 2,500 years ago, what did the Buddha realize that earned him the respect and admiration of humanity, even from modern scientists like Einstein? What kind of people are truly considered Buddhists? If someone holds prayer beads, chants sutras, recites the Buddha's name, eats vegetarian meals, meditates, and recites Namo Amitabha Buddha when feeling anxious, does that make them a Buddhist? Is formally taking refuge in a monastery and wearing monastic robes the only way to become a true Buddhist? The truth is, many people wear monastic robes but do not meet the true standards of a Buddhist, while others who have never formally encountered Buddhism live in a way that embodies the essence of a true Buddhist. In the material world, people are drowning in worries. We cannot compete with technology, nor can we surpass those with exceptional intelligence and talent. What we earn is often not enough to satisfy our desires. Issues like climate change, the spread of diseases, chemical pollution, war, economic crises, and many other challenges make us feel pessimistic about life. On a spiritual level, we lack the wisdom to choose a belief system that serves as a solid foundation for our lives. We struggle to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, what is genuine practice, and what is mere superstition. As a result, many people either distance themselves from spiritual growth or misunderstand Buddhism as simply burning incense, making offerings, attending Buddhist ceremonies, donating to charity, and believing that they are practicing generosity. Yet, when they look back, they still find themselves trapped in suffering and anxiety. So, are such people truly Buddhists? Why do we remain entangled in life's troubles? Why are our hearts still restless, unable to find true peace, serenity, and freedom? If these questions resonate with you, today's book will help you find the answers and show you how to become a true Buddhist. However, the purpose of this book is not to persuade you to follow Buddha Shakyamuni and become a Buddhist. Instead, it aims to present the most unique and fundamental philosophies of Buddhism. And that is also the purpose of this video. Whether or not you seek enlightenment, as long as you are willing to read, listen, and reflect, you will undoubtedly gain something valuable from this book. If you wish, you can use Buddhist wisdom to transform your mindset, open new doors of opportunity, elevate yourself, and change your destiny. In this book, the author dismantles common misconceptions about Buddhism through gentle, simple, humorous yet deeply wise and compassionate words. He guides readers to understand the true essence of Buddhism. Those who have the opportunity to read this book will gain a clear understanding of the concept of impermanence, a term we often hear but may not fully grasp. Through this understanding, they can free themselves from endless worries, let go of their egos, and step onto the path of awakening. Dzonglasar Khyentse Rinpoche, the author of this book, was born in 1961 and is a Tibetan Lama from Bhutan. He is the principal lineage holder of the third generation of the Vajrayana tradition and is recognized as the second reincarnation of the great master Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche of Manjushri Bodhisattva. He studied under and received empowerments from some of the greatest Tibetan masters. As one of the most widely recognized young Buddhist teachers of Tibetan Buddhism, he embodies creativity and innovation. He is also a filmmaker who has worked as a consultant for the movie Little Buddha and has written and directed several films on Buddhist themes. Through his cinematic lens, he conveys the Buddhist philosophy of reincarnation, nirvana, and the essence of life. His films, like a refreshing stream, carry an incredible energy and profound humanistic spirit, receiving high praise and numerous awards at major international film festivals. This book is no exception. It has profoundly impacted tens of millions of Buddhists worldwide and has been highly recommended by international celebrities and renowned authors. I came across this book after hearing Jet Li and Chen Kun speak about it, and after reading it, I felt a strong urge to make this video summarizing its content and to share this message with you. As long as there is anxiety within you, there will always be a guiding faith to light your way. Part 1. What does it truly mean to be a Buddhist? How can one live a good life? What does it truly mean to be a Buddhist? How can one live a good life? Buddhism does not simply equate to ordination, vegetarianism, chanting sutras, or repenting before the Buddha. Although Buddhism has been spread through religious forms, it is not a superstitious belief. The essence of Buddhism lies in the perspective of the Buddha. From the very beginning, he conveyed to us 4 fundamental truths. Baby first, all compounded things are impermanent. Day second, emotions are prone to suffering. The third, all phenomena are without inherent existence. That fourth, nirvana is beyond extremes. These 4 truths are known as the 4 seals of Dharma, which are foundational concepts in Buddhism. The term seal here signifies a mark that verifies authenticity. These truths contain no moral doctrines, religious rituals, or judgments of good and evil. Instead, the 4 seals of Dharma are practical realities discovered through wisdom. If a person accepts and believes in these 4 truths, that person is a Buddhist. Conversely, no matter what external form one assumes, if they do not understand the truth of the 4 seals of Dharma from within, they can never truly be a Buddhist. The core value of this book is to help unlock wisdom. The author emphasizes that right view is the heart of wisdom. For by attaining right view, one can awaken their inherent wisdom. Right view can be simply understood as perceiving the world accurately and logically. It is part of the Noble Eightfold Path, which consists of right view, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. The Noble Eightfold Path is the way and method of practice to attain nirvana and reach enlightenment. After reading this book, you will realize that the 4 truths of the 4 seals of Dharma form a complete, inseparable, logical system. Once you truly understand them, your destiny will undoubtedly undergo a profound transformation. Part 2. Everything is impermanent first? Let's begin with the first truth of the 4 seals. Everything is impermanent. To deeply understand the concept of impermanence, we need to go back to the origin of the story of the Buddha. The Buddha was not a deity. He was a human being. His name was Gautama Siddhartha, a prince of the kingdom of Kapilavastu. This prince had all the conditions: his noble birth, appearance, character, and strength to inherit the throne in the future. However, when he was born, a fortune teller predicted that he would achieve great things, but would become a monk and not stay in his homeland. Fearing that the prince would leave to become a monk, the king ordered that everyone should treat him well from a young age and never let him see the suffering in the world. The goal was to make him believe that life was beautiful. Growing up in such an environment, where he enjoyed all the best things in life, the prince got married and had a child. One might think that a person's heart would soften when they have a warm family and children. However, one day, unwilling to stay inside the palace forever, the prince ventured out and saw an old beggar hunched over and trembling. He asked his attendants, "Who is this person, and why is he like that?" His attendants replied, "That is an old man. Why does old age make him so pitiful, so ugly, and so full of suffering?" The prince asked again, "Will I also grow old in the future?" The attendant replied, "You will also grow old. Then will my father grow old too? What about my son? They will also grow old," the prince exclaimed. "I don't want to play this game anymore. Let's go home. The next day, the prince ventured outside again. This time, he took a different path and saw a sick person lying there, groaning and vomiting. Having never seen such a sight before, he asked, "What is wrong with this person? He is not old, so what happened to him?" The attendant answered, "This is a sick person." "What does sick mean?" "It means that this person's body is suffering from an illness." "Will I get sick too?" "Apologies, Prince, but you will also fall ill." Hearing this answer, the prince felt as if his mind had been shattered. This time he returned home and did not go out for 2 days. When he finally left the palace again, he saw people weeping as a dead body was carried to the river. The prince asked, "Why is that person not moving? Why does their face look so frightening? Who is that?" The attendant replied, "That is a dead person." This terrified the prince. He asked, "So, will I die one day too?" "You will die. Everyone will die." "My child too?" "Yes, your child too." The prince fell into deep contemplation. After returning home, he kept thinking, "How can I prevent my loved ones from dying? How can I escape the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, and death?" To many modern people, the prince's questions might seem laughable. But let's reflect for a moment. What are the questions we ask ourselves every day? Will I get promoted this time? Will this deal bring me a fortune? When will I win the lottery? Where will my grave be after I die? Think about them. In reality, the questions we worry about daily are even more naive than the prince's. In contrast, the questions he raised are the ones we should truly ponder. But how have people in modern society dealt with the pressure of birth, aging, sickness, and death? Our method is no different from using a rattle to temporarily stop a child from crying. We shake the rattle to distract the child, making them ignore the truth they should be aware of. We are no different from children being deceived by rattles, always avoiding the issue. We never seriously think about birth, aging, sickness, and death. We assume that death is still far away, so we keep accumulating wealth, hoping that riches will help us escape the suffering these realities bring. However, in the end, we only live in greater suffering and ignorance. But the prince did not do the same. After returning to the palace, Gautama Siddhartha thought about these issues every day and asked himself, "How can I solve them?" And then the prince decided to renounce the world. One night, while everyone in the palace was sound asleep, perhaps intoxicated from a grand feast, he left. He abandoned his luxurious life to seek the path of enlightenment. He found a place, laid down auspicious grass as his mat, and sat there, without relying on any external force, determined to attain enlightenment and liberation from the cycle of birth and death. This is an overview of the entire story of the Buddha's ordination. Many of us may have heard this story many times, but the key point we need to understand is that the motivation behind the Buddha's ordination was to help people attain liberation from the pressures of birth, aging, sickness, and death. During his spiritual journey, the Buddha tried many methods. Initially, ascetic practices did not help him attain enlightenment. Later, he began accepting offerings from others, drank goat's milk, cleansed himself, meditated under the Bodhi tree, and ultimately attained enlightenment. So, what exactly did the Buddha discover? In the moment of his enlightenment, that night, he realized that this was not just a human experience, but one of all beings, of the entire world, and the whole universe. All things are interconnected. Nothing in this world can exist independently. They are formed by causes and effects. If any element within them is removed, it cannot exist permanently. Therefore, everything is subject to change. The Buddha named this realization impermanence. Impermanence is not simply the idea that everyone will eventually die. More precisely, impermanence means transformation. Everything in this world changes. However, many of us resist this change. Most people only accept the positive aspects of impermanence, but reject its negative sides. For example, when you have a stomachache, you hope that one day the pain will disappear. If impermanence did not exist, the pain in your stomach could not change. So, when your stomach improves, you welcome this impermanence. But you despise impermanence when it manifests in other ways. You dislike the wrinkles appearing on your face. You fear that your loved ones will leave you. And you are afraid that one day you will die. The root of all anxiety stems from resisting impermanence. We need right understanding to grasp the Buddhist truth. The Buddha taught that there is no omnipotent force that can reverse the course of death. When we understand this, we will not be trapped in expectations. When we do not have blind expectations, we do not fall into delusions. When we understand that everything is impermanent, we stop clinging. Without attachment, there is no fear of gain and loss. At this moment, we truly live fully. The Buddha truly freed himself from the pressure of death, and he understood that what we call death is merely a process of change, a process of dissolution of causes and conditions. In Buddhism, birth means aggregation, and death means dispersion. When something comes together, that is the process of birth. When these things dissolve, that is the process of death. The combination and dissolution of all things is the cycle of birth and death. A philosopher from the Buddha's time once said, "As soon as one is born, one begins to die. As soon as one dies, one is reborn." Everything in the world continuously forms and dissolves, and then forms again. However, because human lifespans tend to be longer than those of other beings, we tend to desire long-lasting, good, and healthy conditions. This very expectation makes us resist change. But the more we resist impermanence, the more anxiety and suffering we feel inside. Some may ask, how can I live without hoping for a better life? No one wants to die early. Isn't hope a good thing? Doesn't it bring faith in positive possibilities? Do you know the story of Pandora's box in Greek mythology? When Pandora opened the magic box, all the monsters and plagues inside escaped. After everything had fled, she slammed the box shut. So, what was left inside? People say that the only thing left was hope. In the past, many believed that since terrible things had escaped, humans needed hope to face the disasters of life. But if we reflect through the lens of impermanence, the truth is that this box was already filled with harm for humanity. And the final thing left inside, hope, was the greatest harm of all. As long as hope remains in the heart, as long as there is some lingering desire, behind that expectation will always exist fear. The most fundamental fear is the fear of death, followed by the fear of loss, the fear of inadequacy, and the fear of failure. However, this does not mean that Buddhism advises you to stop striving. On the contrary, it encourages you to diligently do your best in what is within your control, to pursue what you love with sincere passion, and from there create value. The key is to accept impermanence during this process, knowing that everything will change. Impermanence brings instability to this world and to your life. Only by understanding this can you live in peace and tranquility. Here, the author states that impermanence is actually good news. We can embrace impermanence because only through impermanence can change occur, and suffering can gradually be transformed. When you realize that there is no need for excessive expectations, you can live harmoniously in each moment. This must be combined with the concept of mindfulness, which we have discussed in many previous videos. Focusing on the present moment so as not to be haunted by trying to control the past or future. This is the first truth of the 4 seals of Dharma. Everything is impermanent. Part 3. All emotions are suffering. All emotions are suffering. This is the second truth of the 4 seals of Dharma, addressing the issue of emotions and suffering. Why did the Buddha say that emotions are suffering? The root cause lies in the fact that the self does not exist. What is the self? Self is a Sino-Vietnamese word that, in simple terms, means I or oneself. We see our bodies, understand our own thoughts, and carry out our own actions, thus forming the concept of I. When we perceive our form, sensations, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, we believe that we are a distinct and independent entity. It seems obvious that I exist. However, Siddhartha discovered that no entity exists independently, whether inside or outside the body, that can truly be called the self. Everything is merely our illusion. We cling too tightly to the self, hold on to it, see it as the most important thing, and try to protect it. But this very attachment is the root of ignorance. The Buddha realized that there is no self, no evil, only ignorance. Ignorance is not stupidity, nor is it sin. Ignorance simply means not knowing the truth, misunderstanding the truth, or having an incomplete understanding of it. All these forms of misunderstanding lead to misjudgment, either overestimation or underestimation. These distorted perceptions give rise to various emotions, which in turn plunge human beings into suffering. Some might argue that not all emotions are suffering, such as love, joy, creativity, devotion, fulfillment, and comfort. However, to Siddhartha, anything that is uncertain and unpredictable is suffering. For instance, love can bring happiness and fulfillment, but it does not arise on its own. It requires an external object. Thus, it is beyond your control and is always bound by conditions. Not being loved is suffering. Seeing love fade is suffering, and fearing the loss of love is suffering. If you love someone too much, that person also has the power to hurt you. Furthermore, the more self-aware a person is, the more they amplify their own emotions. For example, when you see someone else go through heartbreak, you may feel indifferent. But if it happens to you, it becomes an unbearable pain. After experiencing such sorrow, you will constantly ask yourself, why did this happen to me? Why did that person deceive me? Why did I love them so much, yet they left me? This is because you regard yourself as grand and most important, but that self does not truly exist. It is merely your illusion. Secondly, in order to protect and cherish the self, all human actions revolve around seeking pleasurable emotion. However, pleasure is a relative concept and is subject to external factors. Each of us defines happiness and suffering differently. People strive in various ways to attain happiness and avoid suffering, but every pursuit of happiness inevitably brings corresponding suffering. Every action taken to seek joy is inherently filled with suffering. The more we try to fill ourselves up, the more we find that we cannot truly accumulate anything, like using a woven basket to fetch water, only to return empty-handed. Wealth, fame, status, achievements, loved ones, even beauty and intelligence. Everything we attain through our actions, including positive things, is impermanent. The very fact that these things are only temporarily possessed is already a form of suffering. This is why the Buddha said that the root of suffering is emotion. In other words, all emotions are suffering, so what should we do? The Buddha pointed out that the only way is awakening mindful awareness. Awakening allows you to deeply understand the nature of things. When you realize that the self you have clung to and identified with does not truly exist, your ignorance will diminish, and with it, your suffering will lessen. Awakening helps you recognize, observe, and examine your emotions, striving to uncover their origins. You will see that they stem from the misunderstandings of ignorance. Awakening also prevents you from indulging in the joy of ignorance. For example, some may hear these philosophies and say, "It sounds good, but I don't really care. As long as I'm happy, that's enough. Making a lot of money is great. Enjoying luxurious food and wearing designer clothes, isn't that wonderful?" But this is precisely the joy of ignorance. There is a line in this book that the author puts very well. The joy of ignorance is nothing more than continuously overestimating the benefits one can obtain while underestimating the obstacles one will fade. As long as you think, I'm in a good situation and I'm happy about it, you will never truly understand what real suffering is. We are selective in embracing the joys of life. This very selectiveness causes us to avoid confronting the realities of birth, aging, illness, and death, and to resist impermanence. Some may argue, if you follow these philosophies, won't life become very dull? But after realizing these truths, the Buddha was not bored. He became even more joyful. The happiness he attained was not about overcoming pain or experiencing joy as we typically understand it. It was a profound and immense happiness. To describe this joy, Buddhism has a term called Ma Sukha, the great bliss. This is the joy of awakening mindful awareness. Not the fleeting pleasures that arise from external conditions. What is the joy of awakening mindful awareness? It is when you comprehend the essence and principles of existence. This does not prevent you from enjoying life. On the contrary, when you understand the temporary ups and downs, the sweetness and bitterness, and the impermanence of everything, you can more easily live a fulfilled life. Have you noticed? Why do those who have attained enlightenment, or those with advanced spiritual cultivation, always view the world with a touch of humor? And why do they always have a smile on their faces? Because they are immersed in the happiness of mindful awareness. Part 4. Everything is emptiness. Following the third truth in Dharma, all things are emptiness. Siddhartha realized the emptiness of existence, recognizing that everything we see, hear, feel, think, and know is entirely of an empty nature. So what is emptiness? All things arise when conditions come together. They exist when conditions are present, and they cease when conditions dissolve. Emptiness means that all things lack an inherent self-nature, not that they do not exist. For example, the chair you are sitting on has emptiness. It does not mean it does not exist, but rather that its existence depends on multiple factors coming together, including our need for it, materials like iron, nails, wood, and the person who made it. This is the result of the combination of cause and conditions. If any of these conditions change, for example, if we no longer need it, if the nails or wood deteriorate, or if the legs break, then it will cease to exist. Everything has the nature of emptiness. But why do humans believe that things possess inherent reality? Because we always perceive the world based on personal and collective habits. We label and assign fixed identities to all things, believing in their true existence. How strong is this habit? It is so strong that it prevents us from acknowledging emptiness. As a result, most people do not seek enlightenment or live as Siddhartha did. If everything is empty in nature, then what is life? Siddhartha perceived his experience in this world as a dream. Because we are so deeply attached to this illusory world, believing in its absolute reality, we fall into a cycle of endless suffering and anxiety, like being trapped in a cocoon with no way out. However, if we understand that everything is merely an illusion, we can liberate ourselves. So how can we free ourselves from this illusion? Take a moment to reflect. Have you ever spoken with an elderly person? Many older people often say that life is like a dream. They have endured immense suffering, have clung desperately to certain people or things, unable to let go. But now, looking back, everything feels as light as a fleeting dream. The moment one realizes that life is a dream is when one becomes aware of the ever-present nature of emptiness. Therefore, do not wait until old age to contemplate emptiness. From this very moment, if you awaken, you can gradually withdraw from this illusory world without clinging to relationships, and instead live in greater harmony with those around you. You will no longer be obsessed with things like achieving a high income, expecting a lover to love you forever, demanding absolute loyalty from friends, or setting rigid expectations for how your children should turn out. When you understand emptiness and free yourself from the endless illusions, you will clearly see the worries and fears that consume people in this world. At that moment, you will no longer be indifferent, but instead, you will develop compassion and be willing to help others with wisdom. Here, we encounter the concept of karma. We often misunderstand karma as a system of moral retribution, dividing it into good and bad karma. However, karma is simply the principle of cause and effect, not a matter of morality or ethics. Karma itself is neither good nor bad. The Buddha did not establish absolute standards of what is negative or positive in karma, any intention or action that takes us further from reality, because all things are impermanent, resists impermanence, and thus leads to negative consequences, known as bad karma. Conversely, any action that brings us closer to an understanding that all emotions are forms of suffering, meaning we accept whatever arises, observe our emotions without letting the ego take control or fall into ignorance, will lead to positive outcomes known as good karma. Siddhartha attained enlightenment on emptiness without distinguishing between good and bad, positive and negative. He made no distinction between the value of an ordinary grass mat under the Bodhi tree and a silk mattress in a palace. The value of silk is merely a product of human greed and desire. Thus, after understanding emptiness, the next crucial step is not to let ourselves become dependent on things that bring comfort or familiarity. If we have the courage to rise above worldly attachments, to go beyond logic and habitual thinking, we will see that emptiness in life is something both simple and amusing. At that moment, you will truly feel at peace with everything in life. Part 5. The silent nirvana, the final truth, is the hardest to grasp, known as silent nirvana. One must awaken to the previous 3 truths before understanding this one. Most people believe that the ultimate achievement of the spiritual path occurs at the end of life, that complete enlightenment can only be experienced after death. Many mistakenly think that this is when they attain a state called nirvana, and that this is the moment they reach Pure Land, a state of absolute happiness. But for Siddhartha, that was not the case. His goal was not happiness. His ultimate path did not lead to happiness. Rather, it was a direct path to liberation from suffering, from delusions and illusions. Therefore, nirvana is neither happiness nor unhappiness. It transcends all dualistic concepts. Silent nirvana is a state of absolute lightness, of complete relief. Many Buddhists use a metaphor that nirvana is the opposite of samsara. Awakening from a dream is nirvana, while remaining in the dream means continuing in samsara. Thus, Siddhartha emphasized to his followers that if they wish to truly escape samsara, but spent their lives or future lives seeking only peace and happiness, it would be completely futile. He was emphasizing that one's spiritual practice should be focused on truly awakening from illusions. For Siddhartha, the final resting place, whether it be heaven or nirvana, was not a location, but rather liberation from the ignorance of delusion. One had to find a physical place where nirvana could be attained. It could be exactly where you are sitting right now. For Siddhartha, that place was under the Bodhi tree in India. The freedom that Siddhartha spoke of is nirvana. Transcendence is a concept beyond time and space. It can be attained in this lifetime through courage, wisdom, and diligent effort. No one is without this potential, including all living beings. Part 6. Conclusion. Facing yourself to step onto the path of awakening the above is the philosophy of the 4 seals of Dharma taught by the Buddha. We often assume that the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha and Bodhisattvas are so lofty that they are unattainable. Therefore, we follow them by doing good deeds but overlook what the Buddha and Bodhisattvas truly wanted to teach us: awareness. Awareness allows us to understand the true nature of reality. No matter how many incense sticks you burn, how many flowers you offer, or how many candles you light for the Buddha and Bodhisattvas. None of these actions compare to practicing the 4 seals of Dharma. A truly awakened person cannot be selfish, greedy, or calculating. They will not be like 2 children arguing over a toy, nor like a baby distracted by a rattle, nor like a greedy person holding a bamboo basket and hoping to scoop up water. Instead of sinking deeper into habitual thought patterns that lead to ignorance and result in greed, anger, and delusion, causing suffering, understand the deeper perspective of Buddhism and apply it to life. One day, when you personally realize the truths that the Buddha taught, your compassion and wisdom will naturally shine forth. This book opens a door to a new world for ordinary people, guiding us to view our lives from a different perspective. For those exploring Buddhism, it serves as a self-reflection tool, a milestone to evaluate one's practice. Of course, Rise and Shine does not intend to encourage anyone to join any particular religion. It simply introduces the philosophy of the Buddha to broaden one's understanding. Whether you choose to accept, believe, experience, and practice it to step onto the path of awakening is entirely up to you. Finally, I want to say this to you. In life, we must face ourselves. Even if you escape to the deepest mountains, even if your body is destroyed, you can never avoid facing yourself. Yet, we spend our entire lives trying to become someone, constantly learning how to please others, but never learning how to communicate with our own hearts. Only those who are truly ready to understand themselves, to face themselves with complete honesty, and to use the power of awareness to grow, will find a path to spiritual growth through Buddhist perspectives. After all, there is a line in the book that says, "In the end, we must even abandon the path to enlightenment." If you still define yourself as a Buddhist, then you have yet to become a Buddha. Do not try to use any external form to mask the expectations that stem from your inner fears. Start from within, open up your awakened wisdom, and expand your perception. Because, in essence, we have been Buddhas from the very beginning. Thank you for listening. If you find this video helpful, please share it with those who may need it. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is how you can support me. Once again, thank you sincerely, and see you in the next video.